Welcome to Embarcadero C++ Builder, which is part of RAD Studio. RAD Studio is made up of C++ Builder and Delphi. Today, we are going to familiarize you with the C++ Builder IDE and talk about some of the differences and similarities with Visual Studio. You can see that we have a standard interface here with a Getting Started section, a section for opening a project, a list of recent projects, some sample applications, and some upcoming events over here and some YouTube videos. Up here at the top we have a couple different tabs. We have a Tutorials tab and we have a Documentation tab here. Let's go to File, New, and then we're going to go to Other and investigate some of the different kinds of C++ files that you can create in C++ Builder. So this first section is kind of a short section, and you can create a dynamic library, you can create a console application, a static library, a multi-device application, or a Windows VCL application. And then we're going to do File, New, and we're going to choose Windows VCL application. So C++ Builder has two different frameworks, the VCL framework and the FMX framework. VCL uses the Windows API, while FMX runs on multiple platforms and uses drawing libraries like GDI+, Direct2D, and OpenGL ES depending on the platform. We are going to create a VCL application here, which we just did, and walk through the various sections of the IDE. The Projects section over here is very similar to the Solutions Explorer in Visual Studio. The Component Palette, which is down here, is very similar to the Toolbox in Visual Studio, and the Object Inspector over here is very similar to the Properties box in Visual Studio. You'll see over here in the Projects section that we have a project group, and inside a project group you can have multiple projects. First, let's explore the project one. So we have a build configuration. We can have debug or release build, and then we can have different target platforms. And so for the Windows VCL, the main target platform is 32-bit, but you can also add 64-bit to your application. And so we could compile for 64-bit, and then let's look at these other files. We have a unit2.cpp, we have a DFM file which contains the visual elements of the form, and we also have our header file. And so down here we have a navigator for these three different files. We have our code view, we have our header view, and we have our design view. So now let's go ahead and add a second project to our group. So we're going to add a new project, and we're going to select a dynamic library. So we're going to click that, and then we're going to select C++, and we're going to target the VCL, and we're going to make it a VC++ style DLL. So we'll click OK, and then here we have two different projects now. We have our main project one, and we have our DLL project, which is the second project. Let's switch back to our first project. So we're going to select project one, and then we're going to switch back over here to unit 2. And so here we have our form, and let's go ahead and use our component palette to add some components. So we can add button 1. We're going to drag that over to the form, and then we're going to align that button to the bottom of the form, resize it here, and then we're going to find an image. So we're going to search for the image component. We're going to drag the image component over here to the form, and then we're going to align it to the client of the form here. And then let's go ahead and load up an image into our image component. So I'm going to load Cosmos Dark Landscape here, load it up, and then I'm going to change one of the properties in the Object Inspector. I'm going to change the stretch property so that the image looks correct in our form. So I'm going to resize the form here. Let's talk about the different compiler options that you have available for your project. So we're going to go over to Project and Options. And this is the building section. So we have the C++ shared options, and you can see all the options here. This BPI live output, these are all the different directories you can configure. Over here in the C++ compiler section, you can configure these different options, like force C++ compile, enable batch compilation. There's advanced, there's compatibility, there's debugging, directories, optimizations, where you can change fastest possible code or the smallest possible code. There's output, there's precompiled headers, there's warnings. There's also the C++ linker options which you can change. And so here's all those different options. You can link with the dynamic RTL and various other things, delay low DLLs, and all kinds of other different options that you can configure for the C++ linker. So we're going to click cancel because we didn't change anything. Let's talk about third-party libraries. So over here, if we go into Tools, Get It Package Manager, we will go into the C++ library section, and you'll see that we have the Boost library available. We go to the C++ libraries. We have the Boost library available for both Win32 and Win64. And we also have IGN, and you can download these and use them in your C++ project. Also styles and some other various categories of things that you can download and use in the IDE and as libraries. So we're going to go down here at the bottom, and so we're going to look at this Windows 10 Blue style, which we'll talk about later. I already have the style installed. We'll demonstrate this style a little bit later. So we're going to close out the Get It Tool Package Manager. And then we're going to go over to Tools, and we're going to go to the Precompiled Header Wizard. And so the Precompiled Header Wizard will assist in creating a project-level master include file, which will be used by the C++ compiler to generate precompiled headers. So you can use this, obviously, to generate precompiled headers. I'm not going to use it right now because I don't need to do that. Let's investigate the rest of the IDE. If I right-click up here in the toolbar section, you can see that I can configure some various different tools like positioning, spacing, align, component, all the various different tools that you might want to use. And so this positioning and spacing, those are similar to what you would find in Visual Studio. And let's go through the menu here at the top. We have File, and you can see there's New. And so these are kind of shortcuts to the different applications you can create, the C++ Builder, VCL, and FireMonkey applications, or a console application. Standard stuff here. We've got align to grid, bring to front. We have search, find in files, view, all these different windows you can configure, the debug windows, breakpoints, call stack, watches, local variables, threads, events, things like that. We have refactor. We have project. You can view the source. You can build the project. You can clean the project. You can run with debugging, parameters, attached to a process, all these kinds of things, component, new component, and then there's the tools section which we looked at and the various different tabs. You can also switch between a light version and a dark version of the IDE theme. So let's switch to the light version. Here's the light version, and then we'll switch back to the dark version. Now we're going to investigate a FireMonkey multi-platform application in C++ Builder. We're going to go to multi-device application. We're going to do new blank application. So once it loads up here, okay, so now over here we're going to see our target platforms, and you can see the various different platforms it supports. It supports Android, iOS, macOS, and Windows. I'd like to show how to theme a FireMonkey application here. So I already have a template created. So I'm going to bring over our Material Oxford Blue style book over here. I've added it to the form. I'm going to go over here to the form and set the style book property to our style, and so you can see it's themed it in the editor at design time. And then we're going to do play, and we're going to see how it looks at runtime. So it's compiling the application with the new style included, and so here is our newly styled form, and so this is the FireMonkey framework. The VCL and FMX frameworks with technologies like FireDAC and live bindings combined with the power of C++ can help you rapidly develop beautiful modern applications under budget and ahead of schedule. We can't wait to see what you come up with. Thanks for watching.